Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
Hello, and welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the psychology of performance. And I am so glad to have with me today Mr. Shyam Suchak, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Grady Services and a licensed clinical counselor. He provides strategic leadership across human resources, training, and organizational development for nonprofit supporting individuals with disabilities at the Grady Center. And as a licensed professional counselor, he integrates clinical insight with leadership practice to promote mental wellness and healthier workplace cultures. He is a National Board for Certified Counselors Foundation's Master's Fellow and founder and CEO of Prime Consultancy. Shyam is a frequent presenter on the intersection of mental health and leadership, delivering sessions such as and I love these titles, Unshakable Inner Strength and Mental Agility for Executive Leaders, Take a Seat at the Table, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, What's My Attitude Towards It All? I love that. And Are You Ready for a Seat at the Table? He's also been at national and regional conferences, and his work focuses on helping individuals and leaders build emotional agility, resilience, and psychological healthy environments that allow people and organizations to thrive. And I am so glad to have him with me. Welcome, Shyam.
Hi, Shanda. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me. You know, I think about psychological safety, and it's one of the topic areas that I hear a lot of leaders talk about, especially when they're trying to build culture and sustain culture, and of course, to keep retention. You know, when leaders hear mental wellness, they often think therapy. And I mean, because you're a licensed counselor, how do you define everyday mental wellness?
It's such a great question. And you're so right. When therapy is a great tool, right? But when you think about daily mental well-being, it's more about checking in, being aware of who you are. What are some of your energy drainers? What are some of the things that feed your energy? What are some of the things that trigger you? And how do you navigate some of those things? So what are the tools, the resources that you keep adding to your tool belt? Just saying, okay, am I taking enough breaks? Am I sleeping well? Am I setting boundaries that are able to say no when you need to, instead of feeling like I have to take it all because I'm a leader. I have to do it all myself.
I've seen that too. It's burnout at the very top, right? So what does self-regulation look like, especially in stressful moments?
Self-regulation is about taking a pause. There's situations that happen that are going to trigger you. They're going to ask you to act in a certain way. And so it's important to kind of take that pause before you react, before you behave, before you take the actions, just to check in to make sure, am I approaching this through emotional lens, or am I intentional about what I'm trying to do? Right? So there's a difference there. And when you take that pause, and sometimes that pause can be just taking some slow breaths, some checking in, like, am I feeling something? Am I feeling a thought that's kind of triggering my body response? Just being able to stop for a second and saying, before I just react, because our muscle memory will kick in.
Yes.
Right? They know how to respond to certain sounds, certain feelings, all of that. It's kind of like the whole cognitive cycle. It works like, it's just always is on track with situation, thoughts, emotions, and your behavior.
Well, it's interesting because I know that there's understanding where your triggers are. And I've had conversations with, that's a self-assessment, right? That's a stopping and being self-aware of what sets you off.
Absolutely.
And then practice on your reaction to what that trigger is.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting when you realize, like, oh, I've mastered this, because some people will say that, and leaders, especially being a leader myself, there's often times when I'll feel, I got this. And then you're thrown into a situation where your triggers are coming up and you are operating from this core belief that, oh, I got this, when in true sense, you haven't mastered it all. So every single time, keeping that a practice, am I taking a pause instead of saying, let's just go. I have the answer.
It's interesting too. I think sometimes role playing, I know individuals who are out there driving in their cars, listening, you might be practicing in your car for that upcoming conversation or in the mirror and having a conversation. But I would encourage you, if you need to do that, do it.
Absolutely. I think it's very healthy to do that. And especially because you are going to understand what you are saying, how you're saying, and how it's landing on you.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we externalize some of these things, whether it's thoughts that we've had and the conversations that we think we want to have, but when we actually say it, hearing ourselves will give you that little moment of reflection and saying, okay, this is not what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
So even though my thought was asking me to say that, that's not what I want to say. And that's another way to kind of catch some of those missed opportunities that you may end up in.
I have to emphasize here for a moment for those that talk with their hands, for those that actually talk, maybe their body language, they don't even realize what they're conveying. And I know individuals who heard me speak that it's nonverbal. I talk about in my book, Pen Leader Path. Your nonverbals are sending a lot of messages. And so you may not be saying it, but your body language is definitely talking.
Absolutely. And in situations, we'll definitely bring that up because if you are in front of somebody about to have a conversation and you've already made up your mind about this conversation is going to be a confrontation and not just a conversation, your parts are going to be triggered.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to act like you had to act when you were 7, 8, 10, 12 to prove your point. And so you're going to end up with a tone, with the body language, your gesture, all of that is going to show up.
I think it's really important. So we're not really asking you to hide yourself. There's really important to understand to regulate yourself more than anything. Because I've had individuals say, "Well, I can't be my true self if I can't be passionate about what I'm saying or what I'm doing." But I said there's a line of being passionate and then some aspects threatening, and you don't realize you are threatening, but you have to be mindful.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that you say that because sometimes we feel strength is in pushing things away and suppressing. It's being aware and being able to adjust because you're being intentional about the outcome of that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to focus on that intention and not just the emotion. Welcome the emotion. Let it be there. It's a part of you. It doesn't need to go away, but not allowing it to be in the driver's seat in that moment is important.
So those listening again, your emotions are not driving. You don't want those to drive the car. That's for sure. There's another question that comes up, especially when we talk about psychological performance, is understanding what the performance is and where you are. And one of the questions I had was, how do core beliefs form? Because again, you may have a core belief when you go into a workplace. And how do they silently shape the way we lead when we go in to whatever organization we're going into?
Yeah, absolutely. Core beliefs it's almost like training your body, right? Muscle memory, if we say. Core beliefs are typically formed in our early days, younger days, when we are adapting, when we're learning how to control situations, how to feel safe, how to be able to navigate situations. And again, all of it kind of revolves around that safety aspect of it. When we are trying to do some of those things, we adopt beliefs that are either socially given to us, family beliefs, whether it is religious beliefs, all of these things are lessons that we take on and then we hold on to them. It gets plugged into our body and our system. And so if I am growing up to believe that failure in any situation means it's going to be a complete loss and you are incapable, I am going to make sure that not only am I functioning in a way, even if it is a solution I'm providing that doesn't make sense, I'm not going to fail myself in providing solutions. And in the other sense, it is also affecting your team because they don't feel they have the opportunity to fail.
Huh.
But instead, if we take that belief and reframe it again, it may have served you back then. Just understanding it is not serving you now because the outcomes are changing. So if we just say, I'm going to take this core belief that I have and reframe it to say, I'm going to see what missed opportunity happened. And now what are we going to learn from it so we can all grow together and come back stronger so that we can build as opposed to feel like everything crumbled.
Mm-hmm. This goes to, again, core beliefs. And then can you talk about the values then too? Because you go into a work situation and you hear like, these are our 8 values, or, this is what we cherish in our organization. And our hope is that when we're hiring you, that it matches up, right?
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between the core beliefs and values?
To simply say it, I should be doing this because that's what's expected, versus I feel and I want to do this because it's important to me. So core beliefs are usually external. They're adopted through, like I said, social settings, your family structures, all of that kind of stuff. But the value system is developed intrinsically. It's inside. So I may value respect, but if I am in a setting where the core belief is we accomplish things at any cost, and the cost is not being considered, and now respect is not being held up, my value is going to be in direct conflict with my core belief.
I'm thinking about circumstances where that probably has happened to individuals where they've made a choice. I can't work here anymore.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because a lot of times I'm so glad that you asked about the difference, because a lot of times people have held on to core beliefs for so long that they almost start to believe that those are the values that they live by. Whereas what they don't understand is core beliefs are, and you have to ask yourself a set of questions to say, is this truly what I believe? And if I do, what value does it align with? And if it doesn't, then am I able to reframe that? Is it shifted? Because if you go into this core belief world and say, I am actually believing this is my value, but you can't intrinsically connect with it, and it's based on fear, it's based on consequences, it's based on historical information or experiences where you were trying to keep yourself safe and fit in, then it is probably more of a core belief than something that you value.
So for my listeners, that's something to sit down and really figure out where you fall with that and what is valued and what is actually a core belief.
Yes.
That you're bringing in. And I think that feeling is one of that litmus tests to figure out, like, where does this fall?
And I think sometimes the one thing to kind of also talk about is externalize it, write it down. Because when you just process things in your mind, we have so many, it's kind of like the library, right? You've got so many index cards, everything gets pulled up. You're looking for something, a book with the title read somewhere in there. Multiple books come up. So it's always good to externalize it so you can hone in and focus on the core beliefs that are coming up.
And here's for those that are listening going, what are you talking about index cards? What are those? Yes, index cards. Definitely, they were a thing.
Yes, right? I think all of our libraries, I know growing up in Tanzania, used to go to the library and we had these cards where you'd look at the card to find the book and what, shelf it will be on and what. And I think all of us have that same system in a way. And it's like, okay, whether it's on your computer or anywhere, just kind of thinking about like, if I don't know the full title and I'm just going to pull one thing and I'm going to let everything else mix up. Absolutely.
That's the way you do it. So it's just the way, even that is formulating kind of how you pursue finding something.
Correct.
Which we assume everybody knows what that is, but may not really connect.
Yes.
Can you explain what healthy support looks like in therapy and coaching, peer support? What does healthy support in a culture look like?
Sure. So therapy is more about insight and healing, right? When we think about coaching, we're looking at things like growth and empowerment and kind of just really elevating yourself and your abilities to navigate situations. And when we think about the idea of all of these different areas, healthy support is where you feel safe, where you feel you can actually process situations, things in a safe manner, whether it is with a peer. If you think about in a community setting, a lot of us have peer supports, right? But even with that peer support, understanding what you're trying to get versus what the agendas might be of the peers that are supporting you. Are they feeding your agenda or theirs? So just really understanding who are those people? What are those spaces? Because even in a therapeutic space, there's times when I say this to my clients all the time in my intake. If we don't feel like we're going to be a good fit, if you don't feel you're getting what you need from me, that's not a personal thing. I want to make sure this is your journey and you focus on that, right? So I think healthy support is all about making sure that you understand what you need, first of all, and finding it in the right spaces where it's safe, it's non-judgmental, it is lifting you.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. I think about with leaders having to look at, like, we talk about the three aspects of being sharp, being experienced, and having the education to do the role, whatever the role is, being straightforward with the plan, but being able to pivot when you need to.
Mm.
And then talking about being straightforward and being sharp and, just that pin, be the
Mhm.
strength of character.
Sure.
I think you're talking a lot about strength of character in here when I'm hearing, like, again, value systems, belief systems, trying to make sure where you fall. Where do you think where they would fall? Like, if you could rank them when you're talking about a leader going in and trying to create a culture that you're saying that's supportive like that.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things when we think about strength, not in terms of I need to be able to just push through, but strength more in terms of being able to go inwards, reflect, have self-awareness, be able to really gauge your emotional intelligence. Where are you? Are you being able to show up as an empathetic leader? Are you understanding what your triggers are and are those in control? Some of those things. So the strength is one of the things that I would say is number one, because if you can strengthen yourself, you definitely need strategy because you need a direction. Strategy is so important. But the strength will help you guide that strategy in a way that's going to be intentional. It's going to be, the outcomes will be as desired. And then being able to, be flexible, because if things are changing, if you're self-aware, you'll be able to be more flexible and adjust. And then the sharpness, education, all of that is so important, right? It's what amplifies leadership, but that strength is key. The strategy, and then I would say the sharpness absolutely will amplify stuff.
Excellent, excellent. Well, this is the fun part of the questions.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to ask you, what are you reading and what are you watching? Because obviously, you got some such creative names of the different things of what you're presenting. So I'm assuming you're
Yeah.
doing leadership books, but talk to me. What are you reading? What are you watching?
So one of the things that you'll have to know about me, I have recognized and had that self-awareness that I am not one of those readers that can take a book and finish it. I'm a reflective reader. And so a lot of leadership books, just self-development books, quotes. I love quotes because I can read a quote and then just go down the road and write my own book in my mind, right?
Mm.
And so the one I'm reading right now it's a book, but the title is My Letter to My Daughter by Maya Angelou. And the reason I picked that one, I had it and I hadn't picked it up for a while, and I meant to read that book. And, with Black History Month just going, it was in February, and March is Women's History Month. I thought that's a perfect thing. And I wanted to get something out of that. And one of the things that really stood out for me, and I resonated with that. And it was where she says in one of her quotes was, and I'm not quoting her because I'm going to paraphrase in a way, you may not be able to control the events that you face, but you can definitely control how you choose that they will reduce you. So,
Mm.
right. And it's super powerful because as leaders, we're often faced with challenging situations. Things fail, things change. It's constant. Are we going to allow ourselves to say, I'm a bad leader and now I'm just failing? Or am I going to say, I'm not going to let that reduce, but I'm going to look for opportunities in there? And it was powerful because I could, I had a couple of situations just recently where I was in that space. And just being able to have that reminder was powerful. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and just sharing all those points.
Thank you for having me. This is such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Absolutely enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners who are sharing the show and liking it. We so appreciate you. And we appreciate your feedback at www.mazeassociatesltd.com. We'd also like to thank our sponsors. Thank you to sponsor Ms. Shannon Roof, Principal Real Estate Advisor and Agent Development Coach. And we'd like to thank Brian Davis for all your home, auto, and life insurance needs. Contact Brian Davis. Like a good neighbor, Brian is there. And of course, until next time.
The Pen Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Maze & Associates Ltd., creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.mazeassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader podcast and share with others.